If you don't have to interact with brown people on a regular basis, you can dehumanize them more easily. You can justify what Trump is doing more easily. But there are farmers all around the country that rely heavily, heavily on migrant labor, especially where I am on the West Coast. And they are about to feel the hurt real bad. It's starting to be that time of year where more and more crops need to be picked. And while it was an issue earlier in the year, like in Florida and Southern California, we saw a little bit of farm laborers who didn't want to show up to pick strawberries and broccoli and citrus because they were worried about ICE. Well, now we are seeing the Republicans in Congress. Republicans are now the fascist party of this country, right? They are fully consolidated as a fascist party. They have now agreed to take billions of our tax dollars and expand ICE tenfold. The Republicans in Congress have now given Donald Trump $150 billion of our hard-earned tax money to create his own massive secret police force, his own Gestapo that will be terrorizing communities all over the country. There's $150 billion for raids, but $0 for Medicaid. Do not forget that Republicans did that. Republicans did that to all of us.
Hello and what's up everybody, what's up good people, welcome back to the channel and I hope you're doing great from wherever you're watching this video from today. Now let's just say that Donald Trump has caused the most unnecessary panic and punishment to his own people, to the American population, so unnecessarily because of wrong policy decisions and just being an extremist that he really is. Now, many people have been warning that a crisis is going to hit the United States of America hard and devastatingly because of this kind of decision making and policies being carried out by this regime of Donald Trump in their false pretense of making America great or making America great again, like they often say. And the consequences of these poor policy decisions are beginning to be felt hard and deep, hitting the American population and the American economy. I want us to continue watching and listening to this lady, and we'll be back with something. So see you on the other side.
Someone asked me the other day, why is it that more of America's farmers have not yet turned on Trump? After all, he's cut farm-to-table programs, he's cut farm-to-school lunch programs, he's cut all kinds of funding for, structural improvements, drainage, climate resilience programs. He's cut all kinds of grant funding for farmers all across this country. He's cut USAID that has cost America's farmers billions. Ask farmers in Nebraska how they're doing right now. We are seeing silos full of corn and wheat and sorghum that go unsold. The United States government had promised to buy these crops, and then they pulled the contracts because Elon Musk gutted USAID. And all of this food, not just grains, but also milk that is turned into powdered milk, that was meant to go and secure our interests abroad and feed hungry people, is now sitting unsold in the United States of America, and that is hurting our farmers. Why are more of them not pissed off? And somebody else said, well, why are more farmers not freaking out that all of their migrant labor is being snatched by ICE? We are seeing ICE running into farm fields, snatching migrants who are toiling, picking our food, the food to feed the American people. They are coming in and tackling and snatching these folks, abducting them, and stuffing them into detention facilities where billions of our taxpayer money is going to keep these people imprisoned. And someone in my comments who was from the Midwest said, oh, don't you understand, in a lot of these states, especially a lot of the grain farmers and dairy farmers, they don't actually use that much immigrant labor. If they have very mechanized, agricultural setups on their farms, then they're not really interfacing that much with migrant labor. And yes, I totally understand, for those folks who are growing large amounts of soybeans and grains, that makes sense. If you don't have to interact with brown people on a regular basis, you can dehumanize them more easily. You can justify what Trump is doing more easily. But there are farmers all around the country that rely heavily, heavily on migrant labor, especially where I am on the West Coast. And they are about to feel the hurt real bad. It's starting to be that time of year where more and more crops need to be picked. And while it was an issue earlier in the year, like in Florida and Southern California, we saw a little bit of farm laborers who didn't want to show up to pick strawberries and broccoli and citrus because they were worried about ICE. Well, now we are seeing the Republicans in Congress. Republicans are now the fascist party of this country, right? They are fully consolidated as a fascist party. They have now agreed to take billions of our tax dollars and expand ICE tenfold. The Republicans in Congress have now given Donald Trump $150 billion of our hard-earned tax money to create his own massive secret police force, his own Gestapo that will be terrorizing communities all over the country. There's $150 billion for raids, but $0 for Medicaid. Do not forget that Republicans did that. Republicans did that to all of us. And so now we are seeing a tenfold increase in the completely rational fear of our hardworking migrant farm workers who feed this nation. And guess what? Farmers all around the country, right at a time when cherries and soon plums and peaches and all kinds of other crops around the country are coming ripe, crops that by and large need to be picked and sorted by hand. There's a massive farm labor shortage because workers are terrified that they are going to be snatched off the job, that while they are working, someone will snatch them out of the field and they will never see their families again. I'd like to point you to a piece from Spokane Public Radio from last week. It's called "Fear of ICE Causes Labor Shortage for Washington Cherry Growers." We've had 200 years of migrant farm workers in this country traveling from Mexico up the West Coast, following the picking season to harvest our food. Now, we've also had 200 years of abusing those farm workers, exploiting them, refusing to pay them a living wage or giving them safe work conditions. Yes, one of the things I've said previously is that I hope at the end of all of this, one of the things that comes out of this is that we understand the people who pick our food, they deserve dignity, they deserve a living wage, they deserve safe working conditions. They also deserve justice, and the people who are doing this to them deserve accountability. What we're seeing is a lot of the stone fruit pickers up here in Oregon and Washington, they come up from California and they are afraid to make that drive. They're afraid that there will be checkpoints where they will get abducted. They're afraid once they get here that they will be abducted by ICE. And so they're hiding. I can only imagine what kind of food insecurity that creates for their families. So the Spokane Public Radio piece talks about how the cherry picking labor shortage in Washington state is reaching a crisis point. They interview a woman named Rosa Hernandez, who is picking cherries at an orchard in Wenatchee. She was one of the few who was willing to make the drive from California to Washington to pick this year. She did so because she's an American citizen. But she said even though she is a U.S. citizen, she was terrified to make the drive because she's a brown person. We are seeing ICE doesn't give a shit about your citizenship. If you look like you could potentially be an immigrant or have immigrant ancestry, if you happen to have any kind of an accent, if you speak Spanish, they don't care, they will snatch you. And there's no oversight for you. There's no protection for you right now. She talks about how she did the long drive up to Washington state and she was afraid to pull over at rest stops to go pee because they have heard that ICE agents are waiting at rest stops. They're waiting at gas stations to snatch people. One of the farmers that they interviewed said that he's really terrified they can't get people to pick their cherries and that impacts the financing of their farm. So when you couple the fact that fruit is rotting on the tree with the cuts in grant programs and the volatile economic circumstances in the United States, he's worried that what we're going to see is by next year, more and more farms will be going under. Even Fox News for Seattle, even Fox News is covering this story, saying the growers are not just worried about cherries, they are worried that these labor shortages will extend to apples, grapes, and many other fruits that are grown in Washington state, also grown here in Oregon. Fox News called immigrant farm workers essential to our agricultural system. They said growers across central Washington say fears of immigration enforcement and potential ICE raids are keeping workers away from the field and are currently threatening to leave millions and millions of dollars worth of cherries unpicked, rotting on the trees. The Fox News story went on to interview migrants who said they are scared to show up and that the fear will compound. It will get worse and worse as ICE escalates. And then, interestingly enough, there's a whole section in this article for Fox News readers that is called Why You Should Care. Not surprisingly, maybe. It doesn't say you should care because what is being done to our immigrant farm workers is inhumane, it's cruel, it's illegal, it's terrible, it's an ethnic cleansing in the United States. No, no, no. Why you should care, Fox News reader, is because Washington State is the nation's top producer of sweet cherries. And if the fruit is not being picked, that means that there is going to be a shortage and prices are going to go up. Even a delay, even if there's just a delay in picking, fruit is rotting on the tree. Fruit is an ephemeral crop, y'all. Fruit can't just sit there hanging out. You have to pick it when it's ripe. And so any delay, any shortage of labor for any period of time is immediately lost revenue. Now, this piece came out right before the big bloated budget bill got passed by Republicans in Congress. And, the Fox News take is hopefully lawmakers will consider the long-term economic impact of the agricultural labor force and even revisit immigration reform. I don't know how to make Republicans care about immigrants. I don't know how to make them have compassion and a conscience. I don't know how to make them be moved by the suffering that is being inflicted by our government right now. I don't know how to make them care about anything but their own pocket, their own personal suffering, their own negative experiences. And you could say at some point there's going to be such a severe shortage of labor on our farms that people are going to go hungry. It's going to impact the economy. And then folks will start to care. They will want things like immigration reform. I hope so. But also I am quite worried that this massive expansion of ICE abductions to 3,000 people a day, 3,000 non-criminals a day that are being stuffed into these concentration camps, that those will become forced labor camps. We've already seen Trump say that multiple times, that people in detention camps could be lent back to the farmers. But as of right now, it looks like there is going to be a shortage of all kinds of crops that are coming ripe over the next several weeks. It looks like there's going to be a shortage of what is available in the stores. There will be increased prices. Until we stop it, there will be increasing food shortages. Until we stop it, there will be increasing human rights violations. Until we stop it, there will be hundreds of billions of our tax dollars being used to inflict suffering, to fund the American Gestapo, not only terrorizing our country, but weakening our food supply and our entire nation.
Okay, welcome back. So after listening to that sister, I really believe there is a lot we can learn. And she's really saying nothing but the truth. The consequences from which, the devastating effect of these America First policies being implemented by the Trump regime are nothing but just careless moves that are really going to hurt the American people in the long run, way harder than it might appear. And so it is so soon that the impact is being felt already. Now, we're talking about America First as an illusion that was sold by Donald Trump in his campaigns, to the White House. And when he talked about America First, he maybe some Americans thought that they were going to get jobs and the economy was going to be, at its best, or, some of those illusions. But the exact opposite is going to happen. Now, first of all, can we just agree that if an American is unemployed, it's not because of the immigrants. It's not because of the immigrants. In fact, most of those immigrants in America are actually doing jobs that Americans themselves feel like they cannot do, like the jobs that are left without anyone to do because Americans are not willing to handle. So by doing that, it's actually helping the American people to handle those jobs that none of them is willing to, really take care of. And it's helping. It's helping the Americans more than it would even be helping the immigrants themselves. Low wage jobs and just low caliber, low standard jobs that Americans feel like they're not dignified. And these Make America Great Again and America First illusion. What has it done? Let's start with the immigration crisis. So we have been seeing a lot of ICE raids, the ICE goons raiding and abducting people in public, in broad daylight, in farms, in offices, and in the workplaces. And yeah, many people have been out. There's been a public outcry on the inhumane nature of the abductions and the handling of people, and the psychological impact that that is even having on the people that are being abducted, families being broken, kids being left without parents, or families being torn apart. And that looks like a very big crisis to the immigrant families. But from the other side, that I want us to look at it from another perspective. But what is exactly the impact to the American people, not the immigrants? The immigrants, the impact is obvious. Now, these are the people that are handling those jobs in the farms, taking care of food and the crops, the food production for the American people. See, these immigrants might be coming from Mexico and other countries in Central America, but the food from which they pick in those farms is being consumed by the everyday American citizen. So if these foods, like we're seeing today, are going to waste, nobody is there to do the harvesting. Foods are rotting away. Who is going to run out of, who is going to feel the impact of food shortages? It is the American population, the ones that are being told they are going to be put first. How is he putting the American population first if a food crisis is going to hit, is already hitting the country, because there is no labor to farm, there is no labor to pick food in the farms, and obviously there's going to be a serious food crisis. There's going to be no food on the shelves, and if you can be able to find some, then the prices are definitely going to shoot, to skyrocket, and that is definitely going to also seriously affect the American person, the everyday American person. So it's not just about the immigrants, it's actually what is the impact that this is going to cause to everyday Americans. Food shortages, food of anything else has no excuse. I mean, that's very serious. And then something else, because the lie that was being attached to this deportation and immigrant crisis is that they're taking American jobs. But Americans have come out to even speak, and they can attest to this in this video, that even the jobs that these immigrants do are not necessarily the jobs that Americans desire, or probably they're doing these jobs at lower wages. Farmers are actually going to run out of business, because if a whole farm, like we have been seeing the tomatoes in Florida and other crops in California, in Washington, rotting in the farms, it means those farms who invested millions of their dollars in the farms are going to lose all that money. And already some are already declaring bankruptcy. So where is the America first? Where is the point in which it defeats the whole concept of making America great again if farmers are going bankrupt? And there's something behind just going bankrupt. Let's talk about the tariffs saga as well. Now, he has slapped tariffs on everything that is being imported, uh, uh, you know, from outside, or anything that is supposed to leave America. Now tariffs. I mean, making America first is just another way of trying to tell the world that he's trying to isolate America from the rest of the world. And that's very dangerous, because in the world that we live in today, where everybody needs everybody, then isolationism should not be a concept. Now, if everything that I'm trying to sell to America is getting slapped with those harsh tariffs, then with a world that is so connected like it is today, I simply will just look otherwise, look for an alternative, an otherwise, source from which I can get the goods and sell my goods to. Look at China, the reaction that China gave to those tariffs, because of course that China was greatly affected with the beef market, which China has been a seriously huge market of beef of beef from America. But now, because of everything that's going on with these tariffs and this isolationism, they decided to look for alternative sources, and now they are sourcing it from Australia. That is you, the president of the United States of America, making sure that your farmers, American farmers, are running out of business because now the market has been shut because China is now importing from Australia. The same case is happening to the soybeans that has been being exported to China in those quantities. Um, uh, all of a sudden, China it has paused and is taking very little. And what about the farmers that had already invested with the hope that they are going to export as usual? They are running out of business. They are going to declare bankrupt. So I think many Americans are now becoming to realize how flawed these policies of America First and Make America Great Again are. They are so flawed and they are failing, dead on arrival. Now, we understand that Donald Trump came in and he cut, funding to USID. And USID, from the surface, has affected people in different parts of the world, in Asia, in Africa, and places from which USID has been providing a lot of services like health, education, and even foodstuffs. So we can say that those countries that USID has really been having a strong influence have been affected. But what has also happened to the American economy is that USID was really buying a lot of food, American food, to take to those countries through which is going to help the poor populations and to help those places that are at war and conflicts. Now, if the USID is also out of business, those farmers that have been selling to USID have also been rendered out of business. So the whole thing is convoluted in a way that even though those populations that were benefiting from USID are going to be affected. Millions of people in Africa have now gone jobless because their employer was USID, but also thousands of farmers in America don't have anywhere to sell their crops, their food to anymore. Now, you're seeing that thousands of immigrants are being affected and their families are being seriously affected. But you're also seeing that the American farmers who are running out of laborers are also being affected seriously, and therefore the economy is going to be impacted in that there are going to be food shortages and price hikes. So this thing is one which Americans must now really sit down and forget about the blame games of who put us here and who did not vote for Donald Trump, and just sit together and pull themselves out. Otherwise, this is going to hit the American economy and the American people harder than even it's going to hurt everybody else. Yeah. So I have learned a lot from this particular lady in the video that I played for you and many other sources out there. And yeah, that is what I wanted to share with you today. Do share what you think about this video in the comment section below. And if you like this video, then give it a thumbs up and share it as well. And if you're new to this channel, welcome, and please hit the subscribe button to be part of us. Until next time, I'll see you in the next video. Peace out.